in the far land of Ugono, Orogun, the old Midwestern state of Nigeria, a place endowed with rich cultural heritage and blossoming water lines. One man's remarkable life journey begins, filled with boundless possibilities. This man's journey stands out as a shining testament to vision, resilience, and impact.
He's a phenomenon. He's a phenomenon.
He's a go-getter and a straight shooter. When he speaks, he means what he says. He's not a manipulator. That's why maybe he's not risen so far in politics.
I will describe him as a principled man.
If I'm half as great as he is, I'll be a great man in the world. That's how great he is. He's a living legend to me.
One good thing is I cannot regret following him, and I have never, and I will not regret being with him or meeting him.
I don't know how that process goes, but I think that this is one man that deserves these national awards because of all he has done.
A lot of us can think, a lot of us can do, but there are very few of us who can think, do, and deliver. And that's Otive.
The man, Dr. Monday Otive Igbuzor, was born on Monday, the 5th of September 1963 in Ugono, Orogun, in the old Midwest state of Nigeria, which has now become Edo and Delta states.
My name is Otive Igbuzor. I hail from Ugono-Orogu and Mono-Orogu in Uveli North local government area of Delta State. I attended Ugono Primary School, Ugono-Orogu, Government College Uveli, and the University of Benin and the University of Maiduguri. I ended up earning a PhD in public administration from the University of Maiduguri, but my bachelor's degree is in pharmacy from the University of Benin.
Dr. Otive Igbuzor was born to Mr. Michael Eruemukokware Etiemonu, a well-known socialite of worthy forebears. His mother, Omohoro, whom he credits the major influence in his life, was also from a long line of distinguished patriarchs.
It was an interesting experience growing up. I've always said that I come from a humble background, not poor background, because my parents were rich in values and integrity. And in any case, even though we're living in a mud house, we were able to eat 3 times every day, without going to bed hungry.
I grew up with Otive, in the village. We enjoyed doing what kids who were brought up in the village normally do. We go to farm, we go to fish, we played, we danced, we knew everybody. The community then, everybody knew everybody, and it was fun. It was fun at the time,
Growing up was fun. In the evening, we'll gather in the town square and play.
We always watched each other's back. As Hillary Clinton would say, it takes a village to raise a kid, and I think he actually took the village, or the villages that made up the Royal at the time, to raise all of us. Village has never really left us, till today.
My father had 4 wives and 10 children, but my father died when we were young, died in 1969, when I was just barely 6 years old. So my mother had a lot of influence on our lives, trained my elder brother, late Francis Igbuzor, who trained me.
But who is this man, Dr. Otive?
If I'm to talk about Dr. Otive, that I've known for almost, for over 30 years. By November this year, we will have been married for 30 years. And we courted for about 1 year or so, so that's like 31 years, I could feel a whole ocean with the things that I know about him. But as we were preparing for the 60th birthday celebration, something kept resonating, with me and flaring up in my mind. And I can summarize what or who Dr. Otive is by saying he's a phenomenon. He's a phenomenon. And there are many characteristics that make him phenomenal.
Otive is a great guy. I've known him right from when we were kids. We are from the same village, same community, Oroera in Orogun. Ogun, a community made up of Oromuru, Ozuaka, and Ugono. We're pretty much age mates. I'm a little bit older. Our paths also crossed while we were at University of Benin, where I read law, and he studied, I believe, pharmacy.
I will describe him as a principled man. He has a set of principles that he lives by, and he's someone who doesn't compromise on his values. So he's very principled, and he's also a man of integrity. Like, you will never catch him doing something that is, you'll never catch him compromise his values, basically. So he's a very principled man, and he has integrity.
Dr. Otive is an embodiment of kindness. He hates to see people suffer. He is always in solidarity with the poor and downtrodden. Actually, when I met him, I didn't know much about human rights. It was through my relationship with him that I got to know about human rights. So today, I'm a human rights activist because I married an activist who believed in the cause of justice.
Who is Pastor Doctor? He's a lot of things. I brought a book, like the full book tells me who he is, all the things he is, all the pages. He's a pharmacist, he's a policy analyst, human rights activist, development expert, author, interpreter. Shall I continue? It's plenty. This whole book cannot tell us what he is. He's a lot of things. And he inspires me a lot. He does a lot of things and he helps a lot of people. And I'm very proud of him.
Otive is somebody, we happen to have come from the same place. Since I met with him, he has always shown the need to always empower people. The need to show people the way to greatness, the way to matter in life.
He's self-sacrificing. Dr. Otive can go to any length to do something for just anybody. You don't have to be his relative. You know, for if he has an opportunity to help, he will help. He will go out of his way to help.
So one day I was so discouraged and I was depressed. And so I think that life was over. So at that point, my wife called him. He left his house that night, drove to my place to meet me. I was not in my house. This scenario happened in area 3. He drove down and he put me inside his vehicle. He said I should leave my car. And when we get to his house, he called my name. He said, you are prospect to succeed. So when he said that, I said, prospect to succeed. This man doesn't know what I'm passing through. But after he has discussed with me, that word kept on ringing in my mind and in my spirit that I have a prospect to succeed.
He has what I call unbeatable drive. When he believes in a cause, he pursues it. He has that drive and energy to do what he believes in. And he does not stop until he gets results. So he's persistent.
Otive is a go-getter and a straight shooter when he speaks. He means what he says. He's not a manipulator. That's why maybe he's not risen so far in politics, because he's a very, very straight shooter, goal-oriented. He's an honest and trustworthy guy. No bullshit. He goes for what he wants. And he puts into place what's required to achieve the same goal. And he's very, very good at that, and that's how we've succeeded.
For me, Otive is an elder brother in the sense that he guides me, and he guides so many people in the right direction. You see, when you live your life in such a way that people in society now begin to think, if I could be like that person, or if my children could be like that person, then you should thank God that you are living a fulfilled life, that which is a reference point for aspiration for others. That is the way I look at Dr. Otive.
Otive Igbuzor, he is a wonderful man. That is how I would describe him. He's somebody that God has deposited so much in, and he's touching lives everywhere.
Otive is a man on a mission. You know, Christ said somewhere in the Bible that I must do the works of him that sent me while it is day. The night cometh while no man can walk. So, like Miles Muro of that memory will say, it's time to die empty.
I think I would say he's someone who really cares about social justice. So the idea that everyone should have like equal opportunities regardless of their class, regardless of their background, regardless of their personal status in life. And you can see that throughout his life as a civil society activist, as even as a pastor, because the kind of programs that we implement in the church, a lot of them are really focused on like empowering people, empowering the members, empowering the congregation. They're even like welfare activities like that. So it's like in his life all around, it's just about trying to empower people, and the idea that nobody should suffer because of conditions that they're not responsible for, like just because you were born from a particular family, or just because you were born into like a lower class doesn't mean that you should suffer. So he's really just trying to empower people. That's something I can say about him.
Isn't a typical Yoruba man? They say a man has different weakness. So if a man does not smoke, does not drink, he must womanize. But these three things that he preach against, he doesn't do any of them.
His heart for people steered him on to a very significant path as a student activist in his undergraduate days, opening up the stage for his stellar career and impact, partnering with various local and international organizations. His numerous publications and contributions to public administration and policy analysis attest to this fact.
I think Otive came to Maiduguri, where I was based. I was teaching at the University of Maiduguri. And usually at that time, for people who have been in the student movements and organizations, whenever and wherever they are traveling, they will always meet someone. So when you are traveling, they will tell you, okay, when you go to this city, you should try to reach A, B, C, D. So that was how Otive got in touch with us when he came to Maiduguri.
In the 80s, we went to different places, factories, trade unions, schools, to create cells and to mobilize people for the overthrow of the ruling elite.
So by the time that I left Maiduguri in 91, and then he came also to the University of Maiduguri in the political science department, he found that public policy was certainly one of the areas that he really wanted to pursue his career.
I know him. I know that professionally he's a pharmacist.
And then eventually, I think when he got tired of selling tablets as a pharmacist, we tried to encourage him to come to like full civil society work and organization.
Right from the university days, I was very clear about why God created me, and about what kind of impact I want to make, and about how I will go about it. And God also gave me the natural discipline to follow through.
At that time, I was one of the board members of the Center for Democracy and Development, and I think we encouraged him to move on to become a full-time civil society activist. And then he moved to Center for Democracy and Development as one of the most dedicated, one of the most well-regarded staff at that time.
He's also a development expert. In fact, I met him in the course of his development work. I know he's done a lot of work. He was one time the country director of ActionAid. I also know that he held a position at the ActionAid Global Office.
From the Center for Democracy and Development, he got a higher level of calling, I guess, with the establishment of Center SLD and, of course, the Prince of Palace Assembly.
But it's not just anybody who picked up ministry because they wanted to show off or anything. He had a real calling. I remember the passion he put into building the ministry called Palace of Peace Assembly. When he got the vision, he could not eat, and his wife. So I know how the vision consumed him and how he had to study hard, and wait on God to be able to get clearer revelation for that ministry.
Went into politics. Of course, he failed as a governorship aspirant in Delta State. I think he learned his lessons. And then, of course, served as chief of staff. And I know that Otive was poorer in terms of material wealth, being a deputy chief of staff, because he wasn't interested in engaging in the kind of things that public service are accused of.
And this is very different from many politicians. You know, he's a politician. Many politicians will tell you yes when they mean no. But my husband is a straightforward person, and some of the virtues that people must learn from him are the virtues of honesty and integrity. So when he was going to serve as the chief of staff to the deputy senate president, some people met him and said, we're going to be watching you. And he took offense. You know, when you are not dubious and somebody makes a suggestion, you know, even if they didn't say it directly, you're going to be watching me for what? Because I know I will not steal. You know? So that's the kind of person that he is.
Sometime in 2012, when he became the president, the third president of the Institute of Strategic Management of Nigeria, working closely with Otive, one thing that comes across is the fact that this is an erudite man, very cerebral, intellectually outstanding, and he brought all of these qualities to bear as the president of our institute from 2012 to 2014. And interestingly, he said he was only going to do one term. And in that one term, we recorded some very amazing achievements. It was in his own term as president that we found out that our institute developed a training curriculum and was able to achieve it 100%.
Well, I came in contact with Dr. Otive after hearing about him in 2006. I met with him at Compassion of Jesus Global Mission, where he was equally a pastor there. That time he was pastoring the Abuja branch of Compassion of Jesus Global Mission, until he had the call of God to open his own branch, and I was led by God also to follow him. Why? Because of his teachings and his way of life.
And I remember sometime in 2006, he came to Delta State and he introduced something to us, something that is very unique, and that was even the beginning of my entry or my voyage into the development sector. He came and brought more like a network known as League of Patriotic Debtors. And that league was more like an activism group that is supposed to be critical, review government policies and programs, and even look at how dividend of democracy is also coming to the people. And we did that, and we ensured that there was a group that was active, and we were campaigning vigorously for things to be done differently in the Niger Delta.
Dr. Otive, as he's fondly called, is a man celebrated for his work ethics, his commitment in giving back to the community, boundless generosity, as well as his unrivaled dedication to grooming and mentoring the next generation through his numerous engagement and commitment to the society. Top on the list is his not-for-profit organization, the African Center for Leadership, Strategy and Development, Center LSD.
I think even starting the leadership school, in my view, is a very strategic step that he has taken to ensure that these beliefs, these principles that he holds are transferred from one generation to another.
He's shown that you don't need to have all the resources in the world to start. You just need a heart and a head, and your hands would follow. Center LSD, I have been teaching at the Center LSD for what? 15 years maybe now. I even have to ask Monday how long. And you look at Center LSD, and he said to me the other day, you know, Amina, I don't even know what goes on anymore at Center LSD. Just tell me when I have to come to class. So you see that ability to start and to seed over.
I met Dr. Otive Igbuzor precisely 20 years ago. I was in Benin. I was also working in a civil society organization, but there was a training organized by CDD, and he was one of the facilitators. I think he was working with them then, and then he was a facilitator. It was actually a leadership training, and we had a lot of young people from the Niger Delta in that workshop. Of course, there were other facilitators, but when this man took the microphone, there was just something different about him. His voice, in fact, his voice, I think we can write a book on his voice. He's so authentic, so strong, and you can't miss it.
And you know the strength of his voice. You know, when a meeting is getting boring and you don't know what to do, just introduce Otive to speak at that point, and everyone wakes up and sees something like, this is the person we have been waiting for. That takes divine grace.
When he took the microphone and spoke, first of all, he gets your attention. And when I met him and most of the things he said at that workshop, I just told myself, this is somebody I would want to mentor me. I've never regretted that day. It's a day that I will always, thank God for, that I didn't miss that training.
I think that, one can look at my contribution in many areas. Even at school, I think we should start from school. At the university, like I mentioned, I was a member of the League of Patriotic Students, and I've been involved in all the struggles in this country from the 1980s. From the anti-SAP riot of around mid-1980s, I've been involved in all of them. So we have contributed to the human rights community. I've contributed to the defense of human rights.
And I call him Ogami. You want to know why I call him Ogami? Because at the Center for Democracy and Development, we're not just a group of young idealists that were also trying to change the world. We figured we needed also to change our organization and ourselves. And so within the organization itself, we were negotiating with our leadership in terms of things around, workers' rights, workers' duties, vis-a-vis opportunities. And he was our labor leader. So since then, I'd always called him Ogami Otive. Until this day, I call him Ogami Otive.
And I've contributed to pharmacy profession. I was secretary of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria in Borno State. I was chairman of the Nigerian Association of General Practice Pharmacists, now Association of Community Practice Pharmacists of Nigeria. I've, done a lot in terms of fight against drug misuse and abuse at that time. And then in the development sector, I've contributed a lot. When I was country director of Action Aid, we did a lot of work towards alleviating the suffering of poor people, and my own work in the development sector around issues of leadership. I established a leadership school, and we've graduated over 1,800 students from the leadership school in 16 sets in Abuja and in campuses in Warri, Benin, Port Harcourt, Ebonyi State, Abakaliki, and Jos in Plateau State.
Otive Igbuzor is somebody who is passionate to help the poor. I mean the very, very poor. Once he hears anything about somebody who is in need and desperate, he will ask you one question. The first thing is that, what do you have? At least as a leveler. Then he will build upon it. He will say, okay, come, let me help you. So he's a helper and a lifter.
I've also tried to do a little of philanthropies. Myself and my wife, in 2008, established the Ejiro and Otive Igbuzor Foundation, where we give grants to cooperative society. We established what we call Odeyo Cooperative Society, and that thing has been running actually since 2003. So for 20 years, it has been running till today. We have always increased the number. So today, over 100 people have benefited from our grants for them to establish a cooperative and a small businesses.
Pastor, a worker in the vineyard of God, winning souls to God, and then building people with his leadership. I think he has leadership CSO and so on, NGO. So that he's just interested in building people. He's in the forefront of the agenda to return so much back to the village, and in that wise, he's done so much to get our people into the civil service, both at the state and the federal, but most importantly at the police. The police, where he served as a member of the Police Service Commission. Even our landmark project that we brought to the community, the Federal Polytechnic Orogun, but for Otive, it was very, very difficult, to bring the conversation to fruition. Otive was there from day one. He assisted in reaching out to who needed to be reached out to. The idea was mine, but he helped me, to bring it to reality. Not just the Polytechnic, but also the Defense Space School there, and also the Leather Institute, which is there in his own immediate village of Emono, Orogun. And Otive has been there trying to make sure that we give so much back to the community that gave us so much when we were growing up.
One thing that transformed that or about Otivism is that his teaching transformed life. If you listen to it, you practice it, his principles, your life will never remain the same.
So one tree gave birth to another tree that gave birth to many fruits. Otive is that fruit. Immediately after my graduation, I was moved from my former level to another level. The way we look at leadership changed in terms of service delivery, humanity, and putting compassion in everything that we do. And so when you look at what success story do we have to say? Too many.
In fact, activists should aspire. You know why? Because then the resources will go where they should go to. And so in the case of Otive, he not only has this big compound, and I could see the use of the big compound because then it was for the burial of his mother-in-law. When we all gathered, I could see the use of the big compound because where do you put all those people? Everyone had enough space. Everyone had enough to eat. And then there was this group of people who were in uniform and they all came and sat together. I think it's some paramilitary kind of uniform. And the way they all sat, with pride and confidence, I was like, oh God, who be these people again now? I said, Amina, those are the people who reminded me that I had facilitated their employment. And they all came today as a call to celebrate and to support. And that's why they're in uniform. And I was like, wow, this is what investing in people's lives would look like.
We also established a Niger Data Resource Center where we have books, access to internet, and access to satellite television for people in the village.
And there's something that he has been propagating since the time I got very close to him till now, savings and investment. So at the level of the community, he established a cooperative society to encourage people to save and then do small investment. And he has told us at the center time and again that because we have a cooperative in the center, and so he usually tells us that membership of the cooperative is voluntarily compulsory. Why? Because he wants people, as we are earning something, there is need for people to save. And saving has really helped a lot of us.
We've been also giving scholarship to some primary schools. The primary school I attended, the primary school my wife attended, and the primary school in my father's village. For 20 years, we've been giving scholarship to the best student in primary 1 to 5. At some point, we instituted scholarship for tertiary students, indigent tertiary students in Delta State University. And the list is on and on. I don't like to, to reel out what I've done, but God has been very faithful.
I remember in 2008, our former deputy governor of Bendel State, Dr. Chief Dimos Apore, he called me and said, though people may not like the man because he didn't steal, but the man has something that he stood for. He stood for transparency and accountability. He stood for how a society should develop, that there is need for us to immortalize the man via a memorial lecture. So I was asking him, this man is not your father. This man is not your relation. You are not in any way related to him, even though we are all from the same kindred. But he told me there are a lot of things that society can learn from this man. And so since that 2008 till now, we have been organizing memorial lecture every December in honor of the man, looking at the man's perspective in terms of education, in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of youth development. There are so many things that we have run from that 2008 till now. all of this, the monies used in organizing this, came from his pocket and the support of the wife. There was a time he was misunderstood. People thought he was doing that because he wants to go into politics. But even though he went into politics, there was no reference to that memorial lecture that we were organizing in honor of late Chief Dimos Akpori. So that became more like an eye-opener to a lot of people, that he wasn't doing it because of his own self, but he's doing it because of what society stands to learn from the man Chief Dimos Akpori.
His leadership was something else. One of the things I saw Otive do that really caught my fancy was the way he related with staff. He was such a humble leader. Not the type that you want to go to his office, you have to sign and wait for secretary. He had an open door policy.
So far, we can all agree that the man, Dr. Otive Igbuzor, is a man of great versatility. Perhaps the most striking side to his life is his work and family balance. His devotion to his family shows a man whose charity begins at home, and a man who understands the words of St. Paul that a man who does not provide for his own household has denied the faith. His wife and children cannot help but eulogize the blessing he is as a husband and a father.
So I'm a celebrated novelist today because my husband believed in my abilities. Even for the books to have been launched this year, he had to more or less stampede positively, because I needed that push. So he's that kind of person that will push you to fulfill your destiny. So he's my in-house manager. I can put it that way, because he pushes me to do the right thing at the right time. Being married to him has enhanced my life.
I feel I have the best dad in the world because every kind of support he has given to me. And that's very encouraging. I can't ask for any father better. What do I want again? It's actually the best.
Well, I don't know about challenging times, but what I can just say, he's always been supportive, and that's why I can't even share any experience of that. No matter what they're going through, my parents, both of them, they never let it affect us growing up. They would always go the extra mile for us to make sure that we had anything we wanted. It's not because they were the richest people in the world. It's just because they were always willing to make sacrifices for us to make sure we had the best educational support, financial support, spiritual support, everything. So they've just been very supportive.
And I love him, man. He has done a lot, and I am super proud of him. I even feel I don't deserve him as a father because he's just like the perfect father. And me, but I'm doing my best, Yeah, that's it.
And he carries me along in everything that he does. So I know where he is at any particular point in time. I know what he's up to. And I support him. I support his vision, so I want him to succeed. So I don't have real challenges. I remember when he was in Delta during the elections, because his principal was running for governorship, he had to relocate to Delta State. It was challenging for me because that would be the first time we have lived apart for that long, right? But I knew it was temporary. I knew the elections would be over and he will come back home.
Right from when I was younger, they always taught us to save. We had this little piggy box, I think that's what they call it, or saving box, and it was a principle that whatever money you get, you must always save some from it, and that has grown with me till today. I always imbibe the idea of never spending everything that you have. There's always an amount that you need to keep. And even today, he continues to teach about financial intelligence and things like that. So that has really stuck with me till today.
As his years are, so is his strength. Dr. Otive is not soft-pedaling anytime soon on who he is and his commitment towards making the world a better place.
Well, the next thing for me after 60 is legacy. I will devote the remaining part of my life to building a legacy for Dr. Otive Igbuzor. And the foundation has been laid. I propose in my heart that during my lifetime, I will write 20 volumes of selected works of Dr. Otive Igbuzor. After the tradition of Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, I've already written 10. So I still have 10 more to go. I will be doing more mentoring of young people. I will be doing more support for people. And I'll be choosing things to do. I will do things that give me joy. I will go to places where I am acknowledged and respected. I will just generally do things as an elder who has seen many things.
So much greatness, modesty, resilience, compassion, and humility from one man who has left and continues to leave his footprints in the sands of time and in the hearts of many.
There are two main things that have structured my life. There are two main things that have shaped my life. There are two main things that have made me what I am today, different from others in many ways. The first is a encounter with Marxism. At the University of Benin, I joined the League of Patriotic Students, which is a Marxist-Leninist organization dedicated to transformation of society, dedicated to overthrowing the rapacious ruling elite. There are character traits that goes with Marxism: commitment, selfless service, discipline, collective interest, valuing the interests of the generality above your own personal interest. The second thing that has shaped my life is Christianity. In 1993, I gave my life to Jesus. And I struggled for 3 years to reconcile Marxism with Christianity. And until I came to the realization that the qualities required to be a good Marxist are the same qualities you require to be a good Christian. Commitment, perseverance, collective interest, subjugating your interest to the interest of the collective. The only difference is faith. And so I'm a Marxist with faith in God, which makes the difference. And that has shaped my life. Everything I do is shaped by either Christianity or Marxism.
Otive is a blessing to his generation, in his personal life, in his political life, in his civil society activism life, in his academic life, in his persona. He's a blessing to this generation. And so you can't have a conversation with him and not learn something new. You would learn something new. Whether it's some jokes around the boardroom, which I don't want to talk about now, or some other things. He would always pull out a lesson out of it.
And then you also see him outside the place of his birth, doing marvelous things to ensure that society develops. So I see him really as a leader. I see him really as a mentor. And since I've been with him, I have nothing to regret because he brought me to this time. From the time I joined him in 2018 now, there's a lot of success stories to really talk about in terms of how he has impacted me personally as a person. And I think that he's somebody I can vouch for, is somebody that I can really see, somebody that walks the talk. There's nothing he tells you that he doesn't do himself personally.
He doesn't just mentor you when he meets you. He has been, in fact, a mentor to me, my husband, my entire household. And he's been a source of blessing and joy to us.
And then I went to his country home. And that was the first time I was going to see a civil society person that had a big compound. The house was huge by civil society standard, and the compound was huge. And I said, Ogami Otive, where did this house come from? Say, Amina, if you want to be taken seriously, you have to invest seriously. And I'm like, yes, you are right. He said, look, now I've gone into fish farming. I have about 15 ponds that I've nurtured, and it's raising resources, but also employing the community. That's the way to be strategic. I told you strategy was his very, favorite word. And that just told me that, look, just because we're activists does not mean we should not aspire.
Like, just start with everything he has now without looking for excuses. And you saw it when he started the center. He had just one staff, but he started and he grew it. He's able to start with like almost nothing, but the firm believe that this will work and grow whatever he believes in. I think that is one thing that I've learned from him personally, and one thing that I think young people should learn from people like that. And the other thing is, Otive has made more millionaires than many people I know. And I say that because it's different for you to have a job where you pay people put some of money that they become millionaires, or you give, as a politician, you have access to contracts and you give. So that is different. Otive has made more millionaires in a natural way through savings and investment than any human being I know.
Anybody that loves God will always stand out. Look at his life. In the development space, he's loved and cherished, he's sought for. In the Christian circle, he's well respected. People like listening to him when he preaches. What else do we want in this world? Is it about money? Otive is comfortable. Is it about peace of mind? He has it. Is it about a happy family? Check him out. So, everything about him stands out about him, and then God gave him a height to carry it.
I just want to use this opportunity to thank everyone that has come across my life in one way or the other. Family members, comrades and friends, church members, fellow pastors. They've made me to live a very fulfilling life. And I feel like in stage 5 of self-actualization by Abraham Maslow. My prayer is that for every one of you, the Almighty God will bless you. And in accordance with the scriptures, in Revelation 1:6 and Revelation 5:10, God will make it possible for you to reign on the earth.